Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Money in the Law with John Drohan and Jay Marsden here on My FM 101.3, the world's greatest radio station in the history of radio. Nice. Right here in Milford. Wait, no, it's not your turn to talk yet. Okay. I'm still bringing us in. Right here in Milford, Massachusetts. Thank you for joining us this morning on this fine Saturday morning. As I said, I'm John Drohan from Main Effort Financial, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, the one and only Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group.
Morning. Good morning. Good morning. What's going on, John? How are you?
That's good. I'm good, Jay.
Oh, excellent.
Nice
Very
to
good.
see
Very
you
good.
as
yes.
well.
Well, yes. Well, I have
So
elbow patches on my jacket today, so we're going to bring it up a little bit.
All right, Paper Chase. Let's keep it rolling.
Clean this joint up a little bit, you know? That's what we're going to do.
All right.
Class this joint up a little bit.
Stop with the laughing. All right, let's get serious. Money in the Law is your show that you tune into in order to learn about all things that are financial and important that are going on in the world, and all things that are legal and important that are going on in the world.
Or illegal.
And
depending on the show.
Most likely
on the show.
Right?
That's right.
But they're brought to you in such a way that not only do you understand it clearly and without any type of doubt or question in your mind, like beyond reasonable doubt, I guess is a good way to say it.
We love that. We love that.
Yep. But also with a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
Actually, more than a little bit. There's a lot of fun that's involved with this.
To the point that it's almost painfully entertaining. Almost painfully entertaining.
And I sometimes I can't believe that we have these lucrative contracts given to that we actually get paid to do this because it's almost too fun.
It is. It almost feels like stealing. Almost feels like stealing.
It is the closest thing to stealing. One of the closer things to stealing I've ever
closest
seen.
thing to looting. That's right.
Yeah,
exactly right.
And Tom, I know you're listening. We thank you. We thank you over and over again for giving us this opportunity.
Right down the list of prayers. You're right in there every night.
You're definitely in the top three.
Yep.
All right, so here we are. Money in the Law. What are we going to talk about today?
I think there were a couple of things we wanted to talk about. One of them, which I think is a bigger, sort of scarier topic, but very important, is the possible changes to 401k contributions being floated around as part of the new tax policy.
Hold that thought.
Right?
I mean, it's almost too scary to even bring up at this time right now.
Yeah. Let's end with it because it could go anywhere. It's a rabbit hole.
We could go all day. We could go all day.
Yeah,
and you with your finance background. For those of you who don't know, Jay, not only is he an accomplished attorney, but he also has a finance background, and he runs a finance company as well, which competes directly with mine. That's okay.
Absolutely.
That's okay. We never really cross paths unless we have to, and then
some say it's not even a competition, but I don't even know.
The only time we cross paths is when he steals my employees to do things for him, which pretty much happens on a daily basis.
We're busy.
Can I just tell you though, on an aside note, oftentimes Jay will need assistance. Sometimes he'll ask for someone to help him out for a witness because people in his office can't really witness. So he'll call my office, and then of course my
productivity
my colleague has to go over to his office, which happen to be very close to one another coincidentally. So
works out well. They do a great job.
Well, they do a great job.
We have nothing but love for Money in the Law.
Oh, I'm happy to support them.
Oh, please. Nothing but love for Main Effort helping us out. We always appreciate it.
Nothing but love for Money in the Law. Speaking of Money in the Law, check out our website.
That's right.
Yep, at moneyinthelaw.net. The website is up and running. You will see. Hopefully, you'll see. It's in construction.
Under construction.
No, it's not under construction. We're it's up, but we're improving it. But hopefully, we'll get some funny videos. We'll get some good clips. Maybe we'll get some good. Maybe we even have an outtakes for some of the show.
Like a bloopers edition.
Yeah, that'll be one of the pages. But we're definitely going to talk about. You'll be able to tune in and see what we talked about. You'll be able to link into either the radio or Holliston Cable Access TV to be able to see some of the old shows. So get ready. Moneyinthelaw.net. It's a great way to contact us as well. So moneyinthelaw.net, not .net. Yeah.
Send us your questions.
All right. So what was the other thing you wanted to talk about today?
Well, 5 tips. This comes up all the time, as you might imagine. 5 tips for choosing a nursing home.
All the time.
And we have a link to an article from the New York Times on the Marsden Law Facebook page that talks about these exact issues. And they give you 5 things to think about if you're ever faced with a situation where you have to look at, does a loved one of mine, does a family member of mine, do they need nursing services? Are they going off to a nursing home? And everybody thinks, well, how do I figure out what a good one or a halfway decent one, or depending on the relationship, a terrible one? How do they find out which one they want to send somebody off to, or what's a good fit for making sure that somebody's getting the right care that they need and that they're taken care of and that they're safe?
So it's important for me to say that in the case of when someone does eventually, if they eventually have to go to a nursing home, that's a big deal. That's a big deal, and it's an emotional experience. I'm sure it's an emotional experience for everybody. We on our show we will often talk about things and we'll make light of a lot of things. So I just want to make sure that if I make light of anything, I want to give this caveat that it's not a light subject. It really isn't.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I mean, it's probably one of the times that we get calls that are somewhat the most frantic, right? We get a phone call from somebody, either a client or somebody who had heard about us or listened to the radio show or got a referral.
A lot of times it's from the radio show. A lot of times, or from TV. Yeah, a lot of times they do.
The billboard advertising. Yep. But what they'll say is look, we just got the hospital just told us that my mother, father, cousin, aunt, sister, brother, whoever, they have to leave, right? And we can't take them home. That's what it does. We can't take them home. And so they want us to figure out what nursing home to go to. And we don't know what to look at. I mean, we have no idea what to do.
Because there's hundreds of them, right? There's thousands of them, but there's so many other factors that need to be taken into consideration, right? I mean, first and foremost, cost,
right.
Proximity, location, and then you start going into how do you determine which one's better than another one? It's a huge decision because. If remember, when you're dealing with somebody who has to go into a nursing home, it's not easy for those people to move. It's not easy for them to just move from point A to point B, much less move them into a permanent residence.
Well, and not only that, but it's a decision that you're being asked to make when you're under a great deal of stress, an unbelievable amount of stress. I mean, you're already stressed out about the fact that somebody's health isn't that great, and you've probably already spent a fair amount of time running around trying to take care of some things that sent somebody to the hospital, if you will, in the first place, that now leads them down this path. So you're kind of already operating at a bit of a compromised, from a compromised position, because you just, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. There's just so much coming at you, and it's really hard to figure out, what's the best way to go.
Right, and the other part of that is the person that is actually got to go. They're probably not doing so well. They're probably not in a situation where they're everything's great and they feel good. They're probably miserable, right? They're probably miserable if they're in the hospital or if they're in a nursing home and have to move somewhere in an assisted living and they have to move somewhere else. And who knows? Who kind of knows what their situation or what their state of mind is? But it's probably not. It's awful. It's it's not a great place to be. And so remember, whenever you're making a decision, if you have to make that decision quickly or if you have to make that decision, like you said, under duress, it makes it 10 times harder to make.
Well, and for a lot of folks, I mean, this is potentially the one thing that they may have had a conversation with you that says, I don't want to go to a nursing home. Whatever happens, I don't want to go to a nursing home. And for any number of reasons, the care issues just become too great, and now they have to go to a nursing home. And so you're feeling like you're letting them down, and they don't want to go, so they're fighting it tooth and nail. But everybody knows objectively, but they're not thinking objectively because you're so overwhelmed by what's going on, that it probably is the best unfortunate solution for what's a challenging situation. And you hope you can avoid it, but doesn't mean you always can.
So thank God for the Marsden Law Group and their Facebook page, because if you go there, we're going to give you five quick and easy bullets that'll help you be able to determine whether or not that nursing home that you're looking at is or is not a good one.
We will. We absolutely will. Yeah. And you can always call us. Just like call you guys and say, all right, we've talked to the lawyers about what that piece of it looks like. Now we're going to figure out the financial part of it.
Now tell me the truth.
That's right. If I can ask you what you can translate for them, or they can talk to you about the financial piece of it. So we can take a quick break. Then we'll come back.
Are we breaking already?
We can break already. You don't want to break?
No. I want to break. I'm exhausted.
All right. We'll take a break. We'll be back. We'll talk about 5 tips of choosing a reliable nursing home, and we'll talk about the insanity of the possible 401k.
That's down the road. That's a following.
All right, we'll get to that.
It's
more editorial.
No, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Holliston Cable Access Television is a valuable community resource which has been serving the community for the past 25 years. HCAT provides quality community programming and offers viewers a wide range of programming, including coverage of municipal meetings, high school sports, studio talk shows, and community events. Have you ever thought about producing and directing your own TV show? HCAT staff will provide you with hands-on training free of charge. You'll learn how to operate a TV camera, edit video, direct a show, audio, and graphics. State-of-the-art equipment and the latest technology are used to create shows designed to inform, educate, and entertain our viewing audience. You can now catch your favorite HCAT programs online as we now offer video on demand. HCAT programming is produced by residents for the residents of Holliston. Call 508-429-8979 or go to hcattv.org for more details.
You're back. Money in the Law, First Class Radio, WMRC, streaming live and on demand at the Media Center, mrcdailynews.com. Jay Marsden, Marsden Law Group, John Drohan, Main Effort Financial.
It's like you pointed to me and said,
I did.
Jay Marsden.
I did point to you. I did.
You said Jay Marsden, and I'm like,
can't see that
really?
on the radio.
I get that all the time.
Can't
Are you Jay Marsden? Are you the funny lawyer on the radio? So before we go any further, we haven't even said hello to our buddy
Christian, manning the con.
Christian,
he's already made 7 or 8 microphone adjustments to make sure that we look as good as we can.
He wants me to look sideways.
In my case, he actually,
better?
In my case, he moved the microphone in front of my face. Your case, he took it away from your face. I don't know what that means. I think he's sending a message.
Christian's from Holliston Cable Access TV, and we, of course, those are our people out there. The one and only Lisa Hedrick, Don Cronin, Bruce Guilfoyle.
Yeah, yes, I mean, yes.
Yeah, like that. It's like
that
you know what it sounds like. I'm saying the name of a band. It's like the Jefferson Airplane or some great 70s rock band. Yeah, that's what.
Yep. On the console over here, ladies and gentlemen, number 1 in your hearts, number 12 in your playbook.
Right. And Christian's like the drummer. He's like the young drummer that they brought in because unfortunately, like their old drummer, like most other 70s rock bands, their drummer, they don't last.
Might not be able to go on tour.
They have a very short shelf life, so they got to bring in a young guy to come and do the drumming. So Christian has picked up the drumming. I guess Lisa's probably lead vocals.
Always,
she's the best looking of the bunch.
Good choice.
Don,
Good point.
What do you think, Don? Don's
a bass player.
Don's a bass player.
Stands in the back.
Right? Bass player, super quiet.
Yep.
Bass player. All he's doing, and you know what he's doing? He's playing the bass, and
it
he's
looks
just
like
counting
he's not
money.
even moving. It looks like he's not even moving, and he lends a sense of gravitas to the whole operation.
And then Bruce Guilfoyle, of course, who's the artist, right? An artist who did actually a great rendition, a great portrait of somebody I know, but he knows about that.
So Guilfoyle's either lead guitar.
Oh, he's totally lead guitar. He's lead guitar.
Out the front.
He's lead
lights
guitar.
on him, right? Yep. Wants the attention.
Lead guitar.
Adulation.
Lisa Hedrick, lead vocals, keyboard. Yep, lead vocals,
absolutely
keyboard
makes sense, up front. Yep. Hammond organ. Not even keyboards. Hammond organ.
What's the name? Yeah. What's the name of that band?
I don't know. We'll think about it. We'll have to work on this.
Oh, I can't wait to work on this. All right, so we're back. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about people that maybe you may or may not know, but they're the team from the Holliston Cable Access TV who so graciously come and put our show on the air. So thanks, guys. And thanks to our listeners who, if you ever want to watch something cool, put on Holliston Cable Access TV.
Yeah,
because you can actually see what you're listening to right now.
You can see the band.
Oh, you can see what you're listening to.
All right, so we're talking 5 tips for choosing a nursing home. The first thing I tell families, first thing I say to them, and this isn't even on the list. This is an extra. This was like
wait a minute. No,
this is like
number 6.
Like number 6. First thing I tell them is find a place that's close to everybody who's involved.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, it sounds very obvious. Why wouldn't you? But what's going to happen is if you don't make a decision, because people will analysis paralysis, they won't make a decision. When they don't make a decision, the hospital at some point will say, you haven't made a decision, and guess what? Mom or Dad or whoever it is, Uncle Joe, they got to go. They got to go.
We called for a ride. We called an Uber for them right now.
They have worn out their welcome, and what that means is that they're out of their Medicare days, is what that means, and that the insurance company will no longer pay, so they're going to send them on their way. And so I always tell everybody, pick a place that's easy to get to. And why? Because it's better for your loved one, that you can come a lot during the week, if you will, but it's also easier for the family if they just need to pop in, right?
That's right.
If the nursing home is an hour away,
it's a project. It's a destination.
It's absolute work. And if the answer usually goes something like, I know we're up here in Marlboro, for example, but Dad always loved the Cape, so let's find a nursing home on the Cape. Well, guess what happens when that happens?
Guess what you don't do on the. Guess what nursing homes don't do on the Cape? They don't usually head down to the beach.
That's right. That's right. But I mean, just for you as the family who's involved in somebody's care, it's a project, right? If they're not close by, it's a project.
That's a no-brainer.
And it becomes it's already a burden. It becomes a bigger burden, right?
If you're an hour, an hour one way,
that's right. You got to carve out the time. You got to get there once a week. It's not going to be what you'd much rather be. You'd much rather be closer to home, or close to where you are, or people who are involved in the care is. And there's a lot of pop-in, right?
But here's another thing. So let's say, let's do the math, and let's say somebody is, say, let's say you and I are brothers, and let's say we live 4 hours apart from one another, right?
Yeah.
So is the answer that we put we put our mom or dad in a nursing home that's 2 hours like halfway between one or the other?
Well, my answer to that is who's carrying most of the water from a care perspective,
right? And that's your thing. So in that point, probably not, because now you'd say, well, you're better off kind of parking them, putting them near somebody who's close, put it close to one of them, one of us.
Your brother travels a lot, he's international sales, he's never around, then it doesn't really matter.
Right. So
in our case, doesn't matter.
In our case, you probably have to put it, near me, because you're traveling around. So because you're like, but I'm going to be in Florida.
No work. That's
I'll be in Florida this week. Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's a big deal, right? That actually happens. Somebody says, "Look, we're going to Florida for the winter." That's what we've been doing for 1,000 years. So, again, you pick a place. The important part is you pick some place where everybody can get to easily, right? Because the pop-in is easier for you to swing by on your way home from work, come in, maybe have dinner, hour-long chat. Mom and dad might not have a lot of gas in the tank. It's not a 7-hour visit, right? Yeah. You want to come in, you want to hang out, you want to check in. And the other thing is the facility will see you a lot. And when they see you a lot, and I know that they'll never say this, guess what? The care is better, right? They'll pay a lot more attention to mom or dad when they see you rolling through the door 6 or 7 days a week, right? There's no sort of set it and forget it. There's no out of sight, out of mind. When you're in there every single day, something goes wrong, you're going to figure it out right away.
Another thing you could do is you could roll in with your attorney. So if you were like Jay, who is an attorney, you're just rolling in there and you're saying, listen, I don't think we have a case. But
even better. That's right. Even better.
We're just taking a look around.
Even better.
All right, what's number 2?
Number 2 is don't freak out. You have plenty of time, all right? Now, when I say this, you are going to have to do something. You can't wait forever, right? But the hospital is going to say to you, we have to figure out what the game plan is. It usually sounds something like, we need to get together and have the family meeting, or, we need to figure out what the discharge plan is, or things like that. And they'll even hand you a list. They'll say, look, here's a list of facilities, right, that you can take a look at, and they'll at least start you off, right? So don't let it overwhelm you. Yes, there's a million places on that list because there might not be a bed at all these places, right? So this is the other thing, right? So you're going to say, oh my gosh, this facility A is like 5 minutes from the house, and they'll actually pick me up. It's going to be awesome. The food is 5-star.
They have an open bar.
They have an open bar on Wednesday nights. They have live music.
They have a Hawaiian luau buffet every Saturday.
That's great. Yep, no beds, and by the way, and as crazy as it sounds, if you're a male, or if it's a male loved one, because the demographics skew towards females, it's hard to find a male bed.
Because women live longer.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. But the issue is that you have to worry about it, right? You say, well, look, I want my loved one to go here. Okay, well, that's not going to happen, right? They can't go there. They can go to this other place. So you're going to have like an A option, a B option, and a C option. But the important thing is you have some time. And if you're working with an attorney, if you're lucky enough to be working with an attorney, right? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to tell the people, we're working with an attorney who's helping us through this. Because one of the big things that these facilities want to know is they just want to know there's a plan, right? What they don't want to think is the family has their head in the sand, they have no idea what's going to happen, and we have to move mom or dad or cousin Joe or whatever. We have to move them. And if we have to move them, at some point they're going to say, if you don't tell us where they're going, guess what?
We're going to move them.
They're just going.
We're going to pick one.
That's right. We are going to pick one.
Which is what you don't want to have.
That's right. That's right.
All right, number 3.
That was number 1. Was that number 2?
Well,
it's we threw the numbers off.
With us 5.
All right.
It's actually 6. So,
5, 2, 6.
It's 6.
All right. There's no math in law school. You threw me off. Again, you can do a lot of your own homework. There's a couple of websites out there that you can take a look at. There's a federal website called Nursing Home Compare, and they have a rating source, and they compile a ton of information on nursing homes. Okay, not the best option always, because some of this information is self-reported. So, of course, obviously, the risk is that somebody has their thumb on the scale. But the web, and by the way, when somebody's sick and they're in a hospital, there's a lot of downtime, right? And so, pull out your phone, right? Pull out your cell phone when your loved one's, taking that 3-hour nap in the middle of the afternoon. And if you're going to be there, use that time to this end.
But here's another, and this is probably, I don't know if this is one of your numbers, but one of the things is that, this is kind of like a worst case scenario where it's like a sudden, it's suddenly we have to make this decision. Like suddenly it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean you have to go into a nursing home? Like we didn't anticipate this. But if you kind of if you're in the position where, like, let's say your loved one is in an assisted living, or they just haven't been feeling well. Remember,
Medicaid, you can kind of see it coming.
Remember, but if I'm under Medicaid, I get what do I get? 30 days, right?
No, Medicare. If somebody's if somebody's in the hospital, and then the hospital discharges you to a nursing home, you get up. Well, here, but let me. That's an important distinction because this happens a lot. You get what's called up to 100 days.
Yep.
Now, that means the important key is the key phrase there is up to 100 days. Now, that only counts as long as you're making progress, is what you hear from the facilities quite a bit, right? So at the hospital, what I don't want people to do is think, well, when my mother or father get discharged to a nursing home, or they're going to get discharged, I have all this time. Because you don't have all this time. You could have as long as 99 days, but you might not. And if somebody stops making progress when they're in a nursing home, then the nursing home is going to say to you, either we're discharging them, or they're going to private pay, or they're going to be a Medicaid. But it's the up to piece of it. Whereas at the hospital, they're going to say to you, we've gotten you as good as we can get you. That's it. You've recovered from the fall down the stairs, or you've recovered from the stroke. Our medical work here is done. Now you're heading to a rehab center, and they're going to take you to the next phase of your recovery,
which is going to be your long term,
which could be potentially be your long term. So yes, you do have some time, but you just also got to remember it's not limitless.
So my point is that if I have some time, how do you make decisions when what's one avenue that you'll use, an avenue of information when you make any big decision? Like if I say, hey, you should try that restaurant down in blank. What is that? What am I doing? I'm
talking about just a recommendation.
I'm giving you a recommendation, right? So if you know of people that could that are in like, let's say, in your radius of potential nursing home locations for your loved one, then get out your phone.
Well, talk to your friends, because they may have gone through this.
Talk to your parents' friends, right?
That's right.
So you may have somebody who's like, hey, do not go here because of A, B, and C, or my mother really likes it here, or I really like this place because of A. So there's you're bound to know somebody.
Well, not only that, but you bring up a great point, which is, as you can imagine, right? That to use your restaurant analogy, everybody's going to have a different experience, and I can tell you that it happens all the time where somebody will say, at this facility, whichever one it is, it was a train wreck, right? Yeah. My parents hated it. We hated it. Everybody hated it. It was a nightmare.
Sure.
And then you'll talk to somebody else, and they'll say, oh, my God, my parents loved that place.
Yeah.
Or it was great. Or it worked out fine. Or it wasn't that bad. Try the veal on Wednesdays, whatever it was. So, of course, a lot of it's expectation setting, and everybody's going to have a different sense of whether or not they like it, don't like it. So there's no, it's not going to be the same for everybody. So you got to kind of think through that. I mentioned one place, nursing home, compare, one website. There's another one called Nursing Home Inspect. And that's also a way for you to sit down, do some homework. And again, there's a lot of downtime in a hospital.
Yeah.
Use some of that time effectively. Yeah. And don't be afraid to talk to the resources in the hospital. But again, you can do your homework. And when they hand you that list, by the way, and this also comes up, you can go to those places. I mean, you can check those places out. You can pick up,
why wouldn't you?
You could drive down to nursing home A or nursing home B, and when you walk in the front door, you'll get a sense right away. What do you think? Now, to be fair, it's like everything, right? Back of the house, front of the house, right? The front of the house always looks the nicest, right? The lobby is always nice. Yeah. The carpeting is nice. The furniture is nice. There's always artwork, okay? And then you get on the elevator, and sometimes it's like stepping off into another world, right? Yeah. That's the medical part of it, right? So, there's multiple components to this. There's the rehab room. There's the gift shop. There's all this stuff. But then there's the part where all the work happens. And that's different. And that's what you want to do. Now, when do you show up? You can visit them whenever you want. What's the best time to visit them? Well,
when they don't know you're coming.
That's exactly right. That's it. Just show up and say, hey,
I know it's 9:30. I'd love that tour now.
Well, yeah, and you know what? And they'll take you through, and they'll show you around. And so look around. Look at, see what's going on. People always comment on what's their first, I'm going to call it their first olfactory sensory experience when they walk into a nursing home, right? Yeah. And that's what everybody's worried about. They want to walk in, and they don't want to feel like, I feel like I'm in a medical facility.
Right.
Now you are. So.
Oh, make no mistake about it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So you have to adjust to that. But how they manage that, how the place manages that, that's, everybody's doing it different. Everybody's doing it different.
Yep.
So there's nothing like that hands-on experience.
So
There's
that's a factor that that's going to play into it, because there may be places that don't look as pretty as the other places. There may be places that don't have the same amenities, that don't have. You okay? All right. He's fine.
I'm on the mend.
Everybody, he's fine. That don't have, like, the rare artwork or the Picasso impressions that are up front, but they're great places. They're great. They're great places because when you make that transition into the medical portion of it, they do a good job.
Well, you're right. There's a lot of places you go to, and let's say the facility has been around a long time, right? So the facility's kind of older. Yeah, maybe it shows a little bit of wear and tear, but the care. The care could be head and shoulders above some of these other brand new places that you walk into. You're like, wow, this place is fancy. Well, yeah, but it's more business-like. It's more like a business model where the other place, the care could be a lot better. So that's something to keep in mind. But that's something that you can only experience by literally spending time and actually spending some time in an actual facility. So
you're on the clock.
Do your homework. Do your homework. Do your homework. Go visit them. Do the best you can. They'll give you some information. Ask for anything you want. They have the big thing that came up down in Florida recently was this idea that those poor folks in the nursing home, because they didn't have any backup generation, then the air conditioning system didn't work. So obviously up here in New England, that's part of it. That could certainly be something. In the wintertime, power outages, you're worried about obviously heat and power and things like that. You can ask those questions. Sure. You're entitled to ask those questions, especially if your loved one's going to be a long-term care resident at these places. This is going to be their home, right? So you're fully within your rights to say, hey, what's your backup plan? What's your contingency plan if something happens and things don't work out? Those are the things that you really want to worry about.
What number are we on right now?
This is the 5 of 6.
Okay, we're going to take a break at 5 of 6.
We can do that.
We're going to take a break, right?
Yeah,
we're
sure.
just, you know what? Because I want you to be ready. I want you to come in screaming 6.
Right, I'll stretch out at the break, and then we'll be good.
We will be right back on Money in Law with Jay Marsden and John Drohan on My FM 101.3, Holliston Cable Access TV, right here Saturday morning. We'll be right back.
Are you drinking my coffee?
I don't even have coffee.
Holliston Cable Access Television is a valuable community resource which has been serving the community for the past 25 years. HCAT provides quality community programming and offers viewers a wide range of programming, including coverage of municipal meetings, high school sports, studio talk shows, and community events. Have you ever thought about producing and directing your own TV show? HCAT staff will provide you with hands-on training free of charge. You'll learn how to operate a TV camera, edit video, direct a show, audio, and graphics. State-of-the-art equipment and the latest technology are used to create shows designed to inform, educate, and entertain our viewing audience. You can now catch your favorite HCAT programs online, as we now offer video on demand. HCAT programming is produced by residents for the residents of Holliston. Call 508-429-8979 or go to hcattv.org for more details.
You're back. Money in the Law, First Class Radio, WMRC, streaming live and on demand at the Media Center. Jay Marsden, Marsden Law Group, John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. We're talking 5 or 6, maybe 7, depending on how you count it up. Things to think about, tips to think about if you're ever faced with the idea of what if somebody goes to a nursing home.
Depends on how you count it up.
It's counting. It's
Depends
hard.
on how
It's
you
hard.
count
And then you count it up. So the last suggestion we have before we move on to our next topic is ask for help. Right? I mean, there are a ton of options out there that you can use to figure out. You mentioned one of them, right? Potentially one of the best ways to understand what you're up against, which is referral. Somebody who
find
says,
somebody who's been
we've
through it.
already done that.
Somebody's
right?
done it. Yep.
That's one option. The other option is if you're really concerned about it and you're willing to spend the money, you can even reach out to a geriatric care manager and say, hey, we're trying to figure out what a good arrangement is going to be for my loved one. And you pay them for their opinion.
You pay an outside consultant, and they'll do the work for you. They'll do that legwork for you.
They'll tell you where are you, where are you located. They'll help you narrow it down, and they might even have anecdotally right off the top of their head. They're going to pick up that list that the hospital might give you, and they're going to say, no. Here's what you want to focus on. You spend your energies here.
But to be fair, like you said, that's one person's opinion or one group's opinion based on kind of their experience. And people may have had great experiences at the places that they don't agree with. But again, at the end of the day, it's going to be everybody's going to tell you, hey, this is the best place. Just like wherever you go, like when you go into a store, this is the best. You go buy a car, this is the best deal you're going to get. Everybody's going to, because at the end of the day, these nursing homes, they're a business. They're a business. They have to make money. They have to make a profit. They can't just like hemorrhage money, because if they do, then they're not going to provide good care. They're not going to be a place where people are going to want to go. So they have to make money. They have to treat it as a business.
That's what they have to. You're right. They have to be a business. But the other thing to keep in mind, when sort of all else fails, if it does, and I hope it doesn't for somebody, that's not the last stop on the train, right? If you go someplace and for any number of reasons it's not working, you move them. You move them. You say, you know what, we're just kind of not a good fit for us, and especially if somebody's going to be there for a long-term stay, you say, you know what, this really isn't working out for us. We're probably going to look at another facility, and that, then you'll know, right? Then you'll say to yourself, okay, for all the reasons this didn't work, these are the things that we didn't like about it. Now we know what to apply to the next place you go to, right?
So now you have a great basis or reference point to say, here's what we know we don't want, and you may find that the other places you go to have the same issues or have different issues that you didn't consider. But and then at the end of the day, you have to kind of evaluate, or what's the most important thing? Is it the fact that they have chocolate and strawberries every afternoon, or is it the fact that I feel like I trust the people that are actually caring for my mother and kind of moving her from her bed to the bathroom, and so.
And that's what it is. It's what's the care like, and if you're not happy with it and you're not getting any response, there are there's organizations. Every nursing home has what's called an ombudsman, who's supposed to be your advocate for your family member who's there. You can always talk to them. They're supposed to help resolve some of these issues.
And that's not just a guy named Bud that works at the nursing home. I think originally that's what it started.
I think it's how it started. Hey, that's Bud, man.
A guy named in olden times, like you throw back like the golden years of America. Oftentimes, guys were called Bud. If he didn't know your name, hey Bud, hey, what's up, Bud, right? And so
I think you still do that quite a bit. I've seen you work a room like that.
Buddy,
way.
right?
Yep. Larry Bud Melman, no relation to any of this, right? So it's not the Bud.
Larry,
it's ombudsman. That's right. That's right. So remember, you can change. It doesn't work out. You can always change it. You do have a resource if you need to go to somebody to talk about it. I always feel like you might go to somebody. You ask a couple of times to kind of get something. If there's a legit issue that's not getting addressed, you try to take care of it. If at some point it doesn't work, you say, you know what, we're moving. There's enough options out there. You can look at another facility. You can move your loved one. And make
it's
sure
inconvenient.
That that's right.
If you feel like it's the right thing to do, then
if it's in the best long-term interest of somebody, that's right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So that's it. So again, if you want to check that article out, it's on the Marsden Law Facebook page. Take a peek. And if you have any questions, certainly let us know. Happy to help out. We had one other item that we were going to talk about, and I think you really wanted to dive into this one because it's near and dear to your heart.
All right. Well, yeah. So as we transition from the law, so that's the elder law piece, and now we're going to go into the money portion. And this is sometimes it's harder for us to do this, but we're going to give it a try. We're talking about actually we'll start this out with is that it's not going to change. I don't think it's going to change. My opinion is I don't think it's going to change.
Maybe I used to think that years ago. I have no idea.
So we just we have some reassurance from the White House that the 401k plans are not going to change.
I feel better already then.
Yeah,
great, awesome.
So we'll start with that, but it's the some of these congressional proposals that to change essentially, which is in our practice is for 99 out of 100 people their most important retirement asset, which is their 401k. And Congress is looking to change
for many people, their only retirement asset.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, so that is, and we really try and give it its due when we talk about it, when we do our financial plans, and that especially our retirement plans. It's like, hey, your 401ks, that's your baby. Like that's
the backbone of your retirement.
That's right. So you need to take care of it. You need to pay attention to it. So now what Congress is doing is they're looking to change the 401k regulations. There are some. I'm not saying that all of Congress wants to do this. There are some proposals that are coming down that have been rumored that Congress may want to change the 401k, particularly in two areas. One is there's the concept of changing the 401k that you make it the deductions in a traditional 401k are no longer tax deductible. So therefore, that part goes away. So right now in a traditional 401k...
Well, tax deductible or pre-tax?
Pre-tax,
right.
tax reduction, where I can reduce. I'm
Yes.
sorry, not tax deduction. Where I can reduce my tax, right? So I
So
reduce,
right now you can write it. You
reduce
can,
my taxable income.
So right now, $18,000 a year, you can dump that into your 401k.
If you're under the age of 50, $18,000, which I am. I don't know about you.
I'm not for long.
I don't know
Not
about
for
you.
long.
Under the age of 50, I can put in for 2017 $18,000
And pre-tax.
pre-tax.
So what that means is for the feds, it's like you made $18,000 less than whatever you made.
That's right. So if I made $100,000, now I made in accordance what I'm going to pay taxes on. I'm going to pay tax on $82,000.
Okay. All right.
So
Go ahead.
just quick math. The second proposal is independent of the first proposal in that instead of being able to put in $18,000, I now can only put in up to or down to $2,400. So that's the other change. So instead of say, hey, I can tax defer $18,000 into my 401k, or if I'm over the age of 50 or over, I can put in an additional $6,000. So it goes up to $24,000. So if I'm over the age of 50, whether I'm over the age of 50 or not, the most I can put into my 401k is $2,400, as opposed to 18 or 24. Let's just sit on that for a while, okay? So instead of saving potentially over $20,000 a year for my retirement, I'm now going to save just over $2,000 a year for my retirement.
what a win.
How do you think that's going to look, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road?
I think bad.
I think
bad.
bad,
I think
right?
bad.
I think bad, right?
That's bad.
Now,
That's
does
bad. Saving less is bad, right?
Right. And remember, this is the thing. The whole thing about your 401k and why we always harp on it, because that's arguably, and I will argue with just about anybody, that's the best place to save retirement money, liquid retirement money. And people may say, well, I could buy real estate, or I could, I'll invest in my business. That's all well and good. And they may prove to be a better investment in the long run, but it ain't liquid.
No.
It ain't liquid until you liquidate. But your 401k is. Your 401k, I can put money in today, I can take money out tomorrow. I'm allowed to do that. Now, there's rules of how much I can take out. There's rules about age limit, about there could be a penalty. There's taxation. But the bottom line is...
putting all that aside.
Putting all that aside, it's money.
Right.
It's
That's
money.
right.
And I can put it in and I can take it out. And the thing about your 401k is because you have this capability, and we're talking about traditional 401ks now, because you have this capability to reduce your taxable income, to say, okay, I'm going to get a tax benefit and I'm not going to pay taxes on that money right now. And guess what? If I invest that money, wherever I invest it, if I invested in the stock market, if I invested in bonds, if I invested in a CD that pays an interest rate, whatever I make in that, I'm also not paying taxes on that every year.
Right.
So I get that tax deferral every year of not only what I put in, but also of my gains.
Right, so you get power of compounding, tax deferred
I knew you were going to
growth,
say that.
My favorite,
I
right?
knew
So
you were gonna
all
say
that stuff
That's
works
just
to your
beat
advantage,
into your head.
right?
Yeah.
Throw all that money in there. Now, instead of putting 20 grand a year away, they're going to let you put a whopping 3 grand. They're flirting with it. Does it really happen? Who knows? But then you put a whopping 3 grand away. Yeah, that might put a kink in your retirement plan. Yeah, that might cause some problems.
It does. And so what is it? So you say, well, whatever. Okay, so now I can, let's say I'm not going to, let's say I don't save it there. I don't save it in my 401k, and I'll call you up and I'll say, hey, guess what, dude? I got some extra money that I want to invest because my employer-sponsored plan is only allowing me to put in $2,400 a year. And I'll say, awesome, that's great. I'd love for you to invest some money. Here's the difference between investing with me right now in what I can do for you versus what the 401k can do. So the difference is that if you invest money outside of a retirement account or outside of an employer-sponsored plan, then that money, you've already paid taxes on that money.
Right.
And so that means if you're going to invest $10,000, you really, in order to invest $10,000, you really had to make about $13,000 and change, depending upon what your tax bracket is. So you pay your taxes down to 10. I got $10,000. I invested with you. Guess what? Every year, if I make gains in that, if there's any gains in that, guess what I have to do? You tell me.
I think you're going to pay taxes.
You have to pay taxes
Ding, ding, ding,
every
ding, ding, ding,
single
ding.
year.
Yeah.
So if I make gains, I got to pay taxes on those gains. So let's
Where's
say
that money come from? Got to come from somewhere. money that you're not investing anymore.
That's right. So let's say I make 10%, right? And so my $10,000 goes to $11,000. But you know what? I have to pay taxes on that. So let's say I have to pay I'm paying taxes on my gains, right? So instead of making $1,000 profit,
right.
I probably made only $600, $700, depending upon what's my tax bracket is, or depending upon what the capital gains tax is. But I have to pay taxes on that.
Well, and this is driven by this idea that.
I just want to go to your power of compounding. So when Jay talks about the power of compounding, which he does with such vigor and enthusiasm,
so exciting.
It makes me so proud. I'm so proud of you when you say that. I really do. So instead of going into the next year, so now instead of having $11,000 that is now invested and could potentially make more gains, I now only have $10,600 or $10,500, and that's less money. And over time, that's going to make a huge difference. So if the taxes are coming out every year, then it's going to hurt my portfolio. So that's and it's a huge thing. It's a huge concept, because when you look at numbers, if you say, look, if you look at two investments, one where I don't pay taxes on, I defer my taxes, and one where I pay taxes every year, the one where I don't pay taxes, in the same investment, if I have the same average gains over 20 years, it's going to be 3 times. It could be twice, maybe even 3 times as much.
Right. It grows exponentially more.
That's right.
That's right. And that's key, because we've talked about this before. For the most part, because that most folks don't have pensions and things like that, this becomes your retirement plan. This becomes your retirement strategy. And to all of a sudden shave 80 or 90% of the amount of money that you could save in your retirement out of your 401k.
And that's a great point, because pensions, like you said, pensions are kind of a thing of the past. So if you're one of the few people, if you're a government employee or in the military, then you potentially have a pension, and that's a great retirement asset, and that is your greatest retirement asset.
And usually if you're under one of those municipal or government programs, you have a pension, you don't have Social Security.
That's right. So you don't have Social Security. So you're going to have so that pension becomes your number one primary retirement vehicle. If you don't have that, then guess what? To quote my dear friend Jay Marsden, I'm walking without a net. I don't have. There's nothing underneath me. It's all on me. It's all on me to save for my retirement. It's not just. I don't just have to show up for work and do my job and keep my job, and then in 30 years I retire and have a pension. That's not how it works. I have to elect to put money away and save it and save money in order to have once I get to retirement. So when I no longer can work, or I no longer want to work, or physically I can't do it, then that's where the money comes. My income, which I'm still going to need. I still got to pay for my gas. I still got to pay for my rent or my real estate tax. I still got to buy my food. I still got to buy my Apple Music, and I got to pay for Netflix and all the stuff that I need to pay for. It's got to come from somewhere. I need an income.
Proposals like this are a gigantic step, obviously, away from the ability to make it easier for people to save for retirement, plan for their own future, make sure that they don't become a burden to society. I mean, that was the whole foundation of what Social Security was based around, was to give people a floor. Now you've put the onus back on people to be responsible for their own retirement, but then at the same time you're taking away the amount of money that. Now, where this is important is the financial services industry that would respond to something like this. That industry, they are the masters at then all of a sudden saying, all right,
we got the answer.
We got to put 15 smart people in a room, maybe 20, maybe 19, but a whole bunch of smart people would get in a room and they would say, okay, based on these changes to the tax code, this is the investment product that we're going to develop, and this is going to be your next new way to save money. So for the longest time, it was you got a pension. Then the invention of the 401k became the focal point of everybody's retirement plan. If a policy like this were to pass, the industry would respond to it in such a way that they would then say, hey, you know what? Here's what you should start doing with your money. You should be putting your money away in either these other tax-deferred products or whatever it might be. And these are things that we in the past have joked about, but then potentially all of a sudden
they may be your best option.
They become the go-to option because there's nothing else left for you because of the change in the tax code.
But remember, when you say that, and that's a key part of this, is the tax code. So what does the government have the ability to do? Change the tax code.
Yeah.
So this is again, like if there's a change in 401k, that's because the government's saying, okay, we want to make this change, and how much it affects all the things that you've been doing before could be huge. And one example is with a lot of people in the old days used to invest in life insurance, right? They'd say I'm gonna use life insurance as my investment, right? Because not only am I gonna have life insurance, but I have these cash value life insurance policies that will then grow. And guess what? If I take those things out, if I take the money out of there that's grown, but I don't cancel my policy, I just take that money out as a form of a loan, I don't have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
And the government, they said, okay, that's all. And these things started to really catch on. And the government said, hold on a second. This seems to be a little bit, this forms a tax loophole in paying capital gains tax on your gains, or paying taxes on money that you've earned inside an investment. So then they kind of put the kibosh on that. And they said, okay, if your life insurance, if you take so much out of a life insurance policy, or if you adjust it so much where your life insurance policy, there's so much cash in it but a small death benefit, then it doesn't become a life insurance policy, it becomes a modified endowment contract. So, and guess what? You pay taxes on that just like you pay taxes on something coming out of an annuity or a mutual fund or some kind of market investment.
Right, yeah. So the tax code will kind of, the tax code will figure out what's going on. The government uses changes to the tax code to incent you to behave a certain way, right? They want you to buy a house, they give you a mortgage deduction, right? They want you to do certain things, they're going to make it easier for you to do things, and they're going to kind of drive you.
And that was the cool thing about the 401k is because the pensions were being phased out.
That's right.
They said, hey, guess what? You can put in more money. You can put money in this 401k. You can put in more money than a traditional IRA.
They changed it. They indexed all the contribution limits, right?
That's
so
right.
For the longest time, the contribution limits were $2,000. It's all you can do, right? And then they said, why don't we'll index these limits, we'll put them on autopilot. And then in some respects, that may be part of what's driving this discussion, which is people are putting too much money away for retirement, if you will, or some percentage of the population is doing that.
Yeah.
But what the government's saying is we want to pay for these tax cuts. So the way we're going to pay for these tax cuts is we're just going to make you pay taxes now. We're not going to give you this tax deferred anymore. That's why at 70 they want their money back, right? They say, look, we've let you put this off as long as we can. Now we want our money back.
Yeah, you're going to pay taxes on it.
And this is potentially kind of the same flavor, which is we don't want you to put this money away for 20 years tax deferred. So we'll only let you put a little bit of it away tax deferred, but the rest of it you're going to pay taxes on so that they can afford to do other things. So this is back to the idea of, if you're working with an advisor, hopefully somebody at Maine Financial, and they can walk you through these changes so that you can understand exactly what they mean for you and how you might want to adjust your plan if need be.
All right, it's time to go.
It's time to go.
All right, reach out. If you have any more questions, reach out on the website, moneyinthelaw.net. I am John Drohan. This is Jay Marsden from Money in the Law, your go-to Saturday show. All right, so now I hope everybody has a great rest of your weekend. If you're going to a tailgate, let us know where that might be.
Yeah, we can come and do the show at the tailgate. Absolutely. We've talked about it before.
We would so love to come and do a show.
We'll take that threat. Absolutely.
We'll answer all questions.
That's right.
And we will do it at a minimal cost.
That's right.
Well, maybe Jay will charge a little bit more than me, but
we'll lower the hourly rate or something like that.
The hourly burger rate.
That's right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.